So how do we want to do
What
the,
we want to do before we get started is,
Okay.
one of you needs to make a motion to appoint someone as a temporary chair for this evening's meeting. Someone needs a second, and you need a vote.
okay.
I'll make a motion to
Go ahead.
temporary
I second.
All in favor? Okay.
There we go.
Good. All right, who get roll call, please?
Okay. Dr. Miller?
I'm sorry.
Dr. Miller?
Here.
Miss Lindsay? Absent. Mr. Kerrigan? Absent. Miss Ward?
Here.
Mr. Linderman?
Here.
Mr. Saunders?
Here.
Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Has everyone reviewed the meetings, the minutes from the June 6th meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Are there any questions?
No.
Any comments? Do you want to make a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from June 6,
Do I have a
2022
second?
meeting.
I second
All approved?
No, she
No.
called her roll.
Yeah.
Just called.
Can you call roll for us on the minutes, please?
Dr. Miller?
her. Yes.
Miss Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Saunders?
it. Yes.
Mr. Harrell?
Yes.
Alright, so it looks like the first thing up on the agenda tonight is the replat request for 114 North 35th Street. Is there anyone here representing this property? If you could state your name and how you are related to the property.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Lance Watson. I'm a Southeastern Consulting Engineer, and I'm the engineer on the project.
Okay.
And so TB Harris Properties LLC is proposing a replat of one parcel containing two individual lots, Lot 9 and Lot 10, at 114 North 35th Street. And so they're wanting to take the two lots and combine them into one parcel and split back into two parcels, being two existing lots. The only difference would be that the adjoining property line between Lot 9 and Lot 10 will move west 7.5 feet to accommodate a setback for the existing structure on Lot 10. The current Lot 9 is currently 0.15 acres. It's proposed to be 0.14 acres, so it's decreasing in size by 1/10 of an acre. I didn't see this in the packet, but I have done an analysis. Anybody wants to see it on all the adjacent parcels around this area on 34th Street, I'm sorry, 35th Street, and the average lot size is 0.14 acres. The proposed Lot 9 lot size is 0.14 acres as well, so it's equal, so definitely less than 10% smaller than the average lots of the average adjacent parcels. And the existing proposed plat is included in the packet, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So what did you say the lot size was on the adjacent ones?
The average lot size on adjacent 0.14 acres. And that's the proposed lot size for Lot 9. Right now it's 0.15 acres.
I have a question. Lance, I probably should know this, but what is the minimum lot size? Now,
There is a lot size.
oh, okay. There is no minimum lot. I know there's minimum dwelling size.
Right, there's minimum heights, there's minimum maximum density, there's things like that, but there's no actual minimum lot size in acres.
Yeah, it's for 1.67 is the minimum lot
How do you figure
size. It's in the,
that?
Well,
What's
the
in it?
LDR actually has a one line
It's,
sentence that says there is no minimum lot size.
As long as you meet the setback and something on the square foot, but.
I don't have a
And
section.
I know this isn't a question for us, but I think the city should think about setting some kind of lot size, if it's 50 by 50 or,
Hold that for our discussion.
yeah.
okay,
Hold that thought for our discussion, because we're gonna open it up in a minute.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're
Come
good.
back.
How did you get this?
It's in there. It's, how many dwellings you can have per acre, and that comes up to 1.67.
Well, that don't really correlate to minimum lot size, because density is over a whole parcel, so if there's a subdivision, that includes right-of-ways, pull mark ponds, everything like
So
that.
he says there's no, you say there's no minimum lot size.
That's right, that's in the ODR.
So can I just clarify something? So Lance, you're representing the requester. Are you here for the city?
No,
He's here.
I'm looking at
Is there someone here for the city?
Not for this. I mean, Bo is a PPCI
I wasn't
person.
prepared.
That's
to
what I
answer
wondered,
questions.
He could represent the city, and he does on many things, so.
Now, and I believe he is correct, I think there is a statement that there's no minimum lot size, that's on that, meet the density requirements. And of course, I think density requirements in that particular area was 8 million units per.
Should be the 8 units per acre, I think, that's, residential.
He's got one point there that may bear some thoughts. When you're doing a subdivision, you're gonna have a certain amount that you're gonna have to do stormwater, you're gonna have to do this. That's still your land, it still is tied in with your density, but it's not gonna be a usable piece of property. So that's probably the reason that the LDR says you don't have a minimum lot size, because you've got to accommodate these other uses.
Now, one thing just to address density, there's already 2 lots existing, so there's no increase in density.
That's correct. It was, and the reason that I can't split this as the city administrator is because they're moving the line, which constitutes a replat, so that's why it comes to you guys. But
Had it just been a prior split, that it wouldn't be a problem.
I would've done that, yes.
But because we're moving the line over the 7 feet, we need to make sure.
Well, moving it all, if it was just back to the way it was, I can do that, but anything you move, the size of the lot. So staff recommends approval based on the surrounding, it's a conforming lot and the rest of the lots in the area. You do notice that they've added on a piece to the lot there at the end down by the water. They actually have more room up in the front end. They originally had talked about an easement, and we did not allow that, so they had to move the property line. And the rule states it cannot be more than 10% smaller than the average lot size in the area, so it meets those requirements.
I have one question. This lot is, I guess they're gonna sell it.
That's not our-
I'm not sure what the intent
And
is.
what does the city do about as far as the fence encroachment on the property line?
Any fence approach, that would go to the, help me out,
So code enforcement has fences within the city.
so anything.
And I think there's some apartments behind that.
If there's a problem, or we can just, I can bring that along to the owner and they can fix the problem. If they don't fix it, then code enforcement can get involved and make sure they fix it.
But I noticed here on it, the fence is off the line and it's kind of just gradually goes when that line starts.
Right. And I'll make sure to let the owners know that, and just in any enforcement type case like that, if something wasn't done, code enforcement can get involved, but I think that was just fine.
Okay.
Is there anybody else, public-wise, that needs to speak on this property?
I have 117 Fifth Street, and it's across from where you're talking about, walking to each other. What does that do for our side?
On the other side of the street?
Yeah. Well,
No, really all it's doing is the property lines there now is shifting over because they're
on the same side.
on the same side,
Okay.
on the same side of the road, yes, ma'am.
Right.
Doesn't mess with your plat.
The existing house is non-conforming on the one lot, so that's why we're having to shift it over to meet the setback requirements.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna close that, open it up for anybody else, discussion, anything needs to be discussed on this. And the recommendation, Doug, was to go ahead and approve from the city, you said.
Yeah, it meets the standards of the land development code.
Do you have a motion to approve this replat
I
request?
make a motion that we recommend approval to the council for the replat.
Now, second.
Second.
Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Dr. Miller?
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Ms. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Saunders?
Yes.
Mr. Harrell?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the lot split for 1201 Sleepy Hollow Road. Do we have anyone here representing that property?
Seeing no one, I can take it from there.
Okay.
This lot split came in, and another reason why, as the city administrator, I cannot split this lot is it was not previously split in the past. So they had a lot, we had to do some digging to find the original plat, which showed where the lot was originally. And you can see that on the fuzzy page in the back. It's highlighted in orange. That was where the plot is. The city does now own that city right-of-way road. That was just recently repaved, that's our road. And they want to take the lot in orange and cut it in half, even. With that, it does meet the size of the lots in the surrounding area, as you can see by the color page in the back. That it meets the sizes. It'll be, once it's split, there's other ones that are split and some which are smaller than that. So it would meet the requirements of the land law code, that it does not create it to be a non-conforming lot. So staff motions for request approval, excuse me.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The survey is here, is that described in the whole lot or half the lot? The reason I'm asking is, they're asking to split the lot, but split means different things to different people. And I think going forward, we should have more detailed information. Maybe in terms of the survey, to let us know what the split is. They're saying in half, but still it's kind of a note on the sheet with a line through it. I feel more comfortable with you what it was, our survey.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Mackey? Are you asking whether they're wanting it split horizontally or vertically, having more information on that?
Yes.
That's I'm kind of with you on that too,
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they were very deliberate in saying that it was going to be split right down the middle there. They drew it on another copy of that same survey that they had done.
Yeah.
And I had them write it in that it was going to be in half, so therefore they couldn't go the other way. They couldn't do anything else, so it was an even split from the surveyed lot. So I understand what you're coming from. I mean, in the future, if there's a way that I can get a second survey or something, or maybe their surveyor could do a more professional line, if that's what you mean, I can work on that too.
Yeah, it's too vague. You know, you may get down, we may say it's okay, and then say, well, there's a tree there, we want to go around it, let's move it over. You know, if we had a survey that describes the two halves, then we could vote on that and be done.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think in the past, we have had, when people bring a lot split before us, it usually has a survey showing what's being split, exactly the boundary measurements on how big that lot, each lot would be.
Yeah, I can understand them not wanting to spend the money on it until we get approval, but, I think that's what I would like to see.
Always recommend it with the stipulation that says
Where
you want to split it in half horizontally.
So this is not going before council tomorrow, it's going to the council in 2 weeks, so, I mean, that could be a stipulation, as he said, that says, I can make them go pay for another survey, but
Why? Why?
I don't believe there's a reason why, in my opinion. It's a dead lot split. I mean, it's written on here, we're only gonna approve it when I write a letter that says your lot was able to be split evenly for this. I mean, it's gonna be, when they take it to Bay County, that's what it's gonna be.
Because it'll be 92 point something by 109 feet.
That's exactly right. I didn't see the reason, rationale, but if you guys wanna make the recommendation, I mean, I'm here for you.
Well, as a homeowner, I wouldn't pay for an extra survey.
That's kind of the way it went down.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I don't want to have to pay for another survey.
Plus, it kicks the can down the road so much farther to get somebody to come by your house. It was just, I don't know.
Yeah, just a little more, I think, layman terms. I'm sitting here reading the measurements in here and looking at it, and I figured out where they were going with it. However,
But that's for the total lot.
But then they added a second picture that showed exactly where they were going to cut it. I mean,
and it is initial.
It's, you know, not that big a deal, but it may be later on.
I can understand.
Yeah. I totally agree with where you're going, Mr. Do I have a motion to approve this lot split on Sleepy Hollow?
I'll make a motion that we approve it, provided they come back with a survey showing the lot division.
Anybody wants to second that? Is there any other motions on the floor? So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this pending that they do clarify.
You have to hand the chairmanship to someone else.
Okay.
We accept it as it's been presented this evening.
Do I have a second?
Second.
What was that motion?
Restate your motion, please.
That we accept it as, with the paperwork as it is, without them having to get a survey.
Okay.
And Tim's gonna
I'll
second.
second.
Okay.
Just to be clear, we're recommending approval.
Yes.
We have no authority to approve it.
Yes.
Recommended.
We're
Right.
recommending approval.
Right, yeah, we, follows the council to make the final decision.
Correct. Tammy, can you call the roll for us on this, please?
Dr. Miller,
No.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Mr. Saunders,
No.
Mr. Harrell.
Yes.
Thank you. It is duly noted that I'll make sure that we get a little bit better detail in the future. I understand.
It could help.
I understand. It could be a trickier one down the road, so I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, Doug. That definitely helps us in the future.
I understand.
All right, next item on the agenda is land development code.
All right, so I'm sorry to be kind of vague on this item coming before you, but I have Bo Creel here. So this item, I'm going to pass out some information for. It's going to be in the land development code related to building height, and you can just pass it around, take it all, or pass it around. So this is not something that you're going to vote on or anything. It's more of a FYI to you guys. We're working on an ordinance that's going to go before the city council that's going to officially establish building height in the CCCL line. So I'm just talking about seaward of the CCCL line. Seaward of the CCCL line. So Bo Creel, he's the president of EPCI, is here to explain that. And just kind of so you guys can see, ideally these pictures that Newberry drew for us would become attachments within the land development code. So it's not just that, Bo says it needs to be this height, Doug says it needs to be this height. We have it officially written into the record so that the engineers and architects and folks that are designing this piece going forward have firm boundaries that they're allowed to live by. So Bo's going to go further into detail, not too much detail, but just more kind of explain to you what you have in front of you and the path going forward.
Since about, Bo Creel, of course. Since about 2006, we've had a lot of controversy about where you measure your building height, especially in the flood zones and the coastal zones and the CCCL. Well, the new land development code has explained that reasonably well. The only place we have a difference of opinion is in if you're seaward of the coastal construction control line. And the easiest way to do that, if you look at the drawings that you see in front of you, in all instances, you measure from the top of the first finished floor. And the code actually tells you where that finished floor has to be. Where you don't have a flood zone, 1 foot above the crown of the road. Where you do have one, then you're 1.5 feet above whatever that flood elevation is. In the CCCL, it tells you that you've got to measure from the bottom of the first structural member, horizontal member. Well, that's kind of like the bottom of your foundation if you were on the ground. That's confusing to people. What we would like to see is that on the average, we're looking at about 2.5 feet maximum for a floor framing, the beam, the girder, the floor framing, and the floor itself to the top of the first finished floor. And we would like to have it in the LDR, which we're going to ask the county to do, to just simply state that see where the coastal construction control line, you'll measure the height of your building. Residential is 32 feet, so you'll start measuring at the top of the first finished floor, like you do in all the other categories. And that should solve your problem. Now, and I had a question today from one of the officials. Well, what about if somebody decides to put a 24-inch beam instead of a 26-inch beam? Well, we've got some very good plans examiners, and that's part of the building code requirements. So we'll handle that when we get to it, because if they can't prove that it needs a 24-inch beam, then they're not going to get the other 8 inches elevation on that thing. But like I said, we think if we do that, we'll resolve the confusion and everybody can move on. I actually answered this very thing in front of the P&Z in 2005 or 6. There was roundhouses in 14th Street on the other side of the road. That's the reason they got that round roof, because they couldn't do a pitch roof. It wouldn't work.
Smash it down.
And I'll be glad to answer any questions about that.
So Bo, the coastal construction control line,
Yes.
is that this purple area here that says coastal zone?
No, you've got, is that a flood map? You've got
It
this.
is.
Okay, your flood maps have a coastal A zone, AE zone, whatever it is, like that. But the coastal construction control line theoretically is, follows inland. The exact measurement I can't tell you. It used to be within 1,500 feet of the Gulf Coast line. I think that now covers your coastal construction line, or coastal A zone. The coastal construction control line is established by FDEP, and they are the entity that said your minimum height had to be 17 feet and 1 inch to the bottom of your first structural member. And like I said, that we're just simply going to make it a little easier to understand. We're going to raise that height. The way you measure your building, that beam is still going to be 17.1, but the height, you're going to measure your building height from the top of your floor like you do in all other categories.
So, but it's 15 feet from the beach.
1,500 feet
1,500 feet from the
Now,
beach.
from mean high water line.
Which is where?
NGDD is basic,
Okay, so we know it covers 98, but does it cover any other roads? Let's make it unconfusing as possible.
I believe there's one place in Mexico Beach that actually extends across 98,
Okay,
but for the most part,
Yes.
you're gonna be south of 98.
got it.
Where the beach down around 42nd Street extends a long way down, then you're gonna be, I'll give you an example of what I'm working on right now. You had one house on the beach that was, they could be 17.1 off the ground. The next lot, the line ran right through that lot. So there, we're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna have to do. They haven't asked to build yet. But the next lot to that, prior to the Hurricane Michael, had a fourplex there. And that puts them outside the CCCL. So we got this guy on the beach that's got 17 feet off the ground, and we got this guy 2 more lots up that he's gonna be on the ground, kind of like that.
So, as a member of the P&Z, how would I determine if a request was in where in these 3 areas, these 3 types? Is that defined? Is that shown on a map someplace, or is that up to
The
the
coastal construction
FDEP?
control line, you can simply Google that, and you can pull a map up on it. There are some maps. We have one in the building department office if you'd like to talk about
So it's
that.
not something that's normally available to us, but when it comes to the P&Z and the council, you would advise us of what zone it falls into, I guess, for the height requirements?
If the ordinance allows us to do that measurement, you're not gonna have to take any action on a 1-2 family dwelling. You'd only do that with some type of commercial.
But if we were doing something
Look it up for you.
that required something to be a variance or something like that, we would identify that for you as soon as see it.
And Doug, that may be something that possibly, if you get, somebody would get a map that could be put on the wall somewhere, so the board could very easily see what we're talking about because it comes control line.
I don't know if that's necessary, at least from my perspective. I was just wondering if it was something that I could refer to, but it sounds like it's really only going to be relevant to me
I will,
is if there's a variation.
I will email you a link to that coast construction line and you can like this.
It's under FDEP map direct.
FDEP map direct.
Yep, that'll put you on, you can do the CCCL one and the R monuments.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess in the same venue, the 100 and 500 year flood zone, is that according to FEMA or is that also
That's
FDEP?
that has nothing to do with
Okay.
coastal control line.
Along with the AEBE and shaded X flood zones, that's another.
That's all
FEMA
FEMA,
definition. Okay.
You know how many state floods just have to have their shot.
And you gotta make some money somewhere, so yeah, so, what this will establish for us is a baseline for these folks, so that, it's more direct, like line drawn in the sand, so to speak. But, it would establish that for them to make it easier for the engineers and just folks to keep projects moving forward. So, all this was an informational item, that we bring an ordinance forward to the council, so that we can establish that, add that to our land development code. Other than that, there was nothing else unless you guys had any other questions about that.
I have a question. When we got the LDC, which I just got a couple of weeks ago, you had asked if there was any misunderstandings, corrections, or anything like that. Is that put here? Is that you 101 or?
Well, corrections or items that you think should
They're
change.
confusing. They're confusing.
Okay.
It tells you to go to a place and it's not there.
So that's something that you could definitely, bring to me individually. You don't have to do it here. You can bring it to me individually. And I can get clarification. So we do an update quarterly, so that we have that part of our contract.
Well, you had asked us
You're right.
at a meeting, but I didn't have it yet.
Okay.
So I hadn't had a chance to.
You
look
always
at it.
have time for a clarification, and like I said, we update it quarterly, so we would send off any concerns that we found for them to compare quarterly to get back to us. So we're in the process of putting together the next bundle, so we would not do an update until after this. This is a process, so you do have time if there's something you want to get to me. So
Well, it's just confusing in here.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes it confusing for code enforcement.
it probably is.
As you go through it, you'll find some scribblers areas. I've seen several today. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and of course they happen when you
Sure
do
do.
with that much text.
I'd be glad that
But when
anytime
you can't find the thing, you can't get the 2.05 and it's not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
I
I found
understand.
that one.
I understand. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, any of those you can bring to me because I've got a list going of 4 or 5 things. I mean, they combined all the ordinances we passed since 2018
Right.
or 2019, excuse me, into the current thing that we had. So there will be some things. We're getting a lot better to have them online. So yeah, I'll take those at any time.
Okay.
So, if no other questions on that topic, I appreciate you guys hearing that for us.
And the next is off-street parking standards.
All right, so off-street parking is also an item that's just in here for your reference to some items that are under discussion to see how you guys would welcome this type of thing. So as we're in an environment these days where we are trying to help, our developers and our contractors and people that are trying to do business and spend money in Mexico, trying to do business in Mexico Beach. Sometimes we have to be a little more lenient. So for example, like St. Joe needed to pour concrete at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're way out of the way where they're at. We did work with them, although they shouldn't be pouring before a certain time in the morning. We're allowing them to pour that because they're pouring a massive amount of concrete. So we want to keep their things going forward. So we make exceptions for certain things like that. You remember they had the burning, they were burning some of the land that they tore down and stuff over there. So we made some exceptions for those as long as they had the proper permits. But this one's came to us related to off-premise parking. There's a developer that is putting together an option for a business for Mexico Beach. You can see the property is going to be on 98. It's a 2-story building on top of piles.
Everybody get one?
Sorry. Everybody got one?
Sorry.
All right, thanks. So it's a 2-story building on top of piles. The first story would be a convenience store, and they've slated in a liquor store area. On the third floor, they would have an upscale Mexican restaurant that would seat approximately 86 folks. So it would be a very nice place right there on 98 overlooking the Gulf for that purpose. However, when they designed this place, there's a certain number of parking places that go along with it. And that's why I've included this other section for you under the Land Development Code related to allowable uses under residential general. So on 98, the property where they're building the piece of the property, the restaurant and liquor store, I don't know what to call that. But where they're building that is in a commercial zone, right? They don't have enough parking to satisfy the requirements for this commercial zone. So we're not asking for, they're not asking for any kind of variance or anything of that nature related to the number of spots. And they're not asking to use the parking along 98, which they're not allowed to. So they've actually gone out and got a long-term lease on a piece of property that is not directly behind, it's behind them, but one lot to the right. And it actually is in residential general. So this lot where you see all the parking is on Oleander, behind this building that's set up. So that would be a residential general lot, and the Land Development Code does not call for parking lots in that area. So you can see, where it talks about on the chart on the front on number 2, it says prohibited all other users. So if it's not in any one of these categories above here for accessory uses, it's prohibited. So the Land Development Code would not allow for parking on that lot. However, they could ask for a variance to the council, going through you guys to the council, to have a variance to create a parking lot on this lot. They would obviously have to put fencing and vegetation or something to keep the lights from flashing in people's faces and things of that nature. So they would be able to block this off and utilize it as parking so that they could meet the requirements for their building. Now, this, just so in all clarity, this extra lot, they're in the process of buying it, but they have a 3-year lease on it with an option to buy after 3 years. So they don't own this lot right now where they're putting up parking. So that's something to think about. However, they do have a long-term lease, and you can classify that somewhat as an owner if you have a long-term lease with an option to buy. So
How long is the lease?
3 years, Mr. Saunders. Three-year lease with an option to buy right after that. The person just didn't want to sell it. I guess I can't speak for that person. I don't know, but
Where is this? I'm still.
so this is next to the Exxon station on 98. There's a vacant lot right there. Next to what's that place? There's a realty office right there. To the right of it, just down from the
MediaCom and then
Right.
It's Forgotten Coast.
Forgotten Coast is what it
Between
is.
the convenience store and Forgotten Coast.
That's correct. Forgotten Coast is what I couldn't think of. So it's right there on 98, and that's where the restaurant would be, and the lot behind them
So
is
this is
across
where-
the one-way road.
This is where Toucan was.
No.
No.
On the other side, it's
side.
on the north side of 98.
North side of 98.
So which is my next point about Toucans. So Toucans is another one that had off-premise parking, but they've had that forever. They had 2 lots here, one next to the gas station and then behind them, the building back there. They're not trying to share any parking with us. They're trying to stand on their own for parking. So they've suggested this option. So the thought was to bring it to you guys and to bring it to council so that you could let everybody know what kind of appetite you had to help those folks out or not, depending on before they spent, I don't know, how much ever the plans cost, the engineering plans would cost quite a bit of money for that size of facility. So they don't want, we did not want to say, okay, put in your development order and see it, if the council and you guys are just going to say, no, we're not breaking the rules on our ordinances. So it's more of a, when we think about offering a variance down the road, and I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention, because if they do say yes to the council, it will come back to you guys again. So just out of order for you guys to see it. And any comments that I could bring to the council tomorrow, something like that, just to, this item is on the agenda for tomorrow for discussion, and they're not voting on it either. They're just hearing it as an option to let the developer know if that's something they want to do or not.
Okay, just so I'm clear, it's right there at 8th Street. That's
So it'd be east of 8th Street, yes, sir, just past the tax
empty
office.
lot that slopes like.
The empty lot that lies between this gas station in front of me and the Gulf Coast.
Oh, there's
Forgotten
Forgotten
Coast.
Coast.
Oh, there's an empty lot
There's
there?
an empty lot.
There it is, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize. I walk by there every day. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a little more, if it does come to us, I definitely would want to do some research on this
Yeah.
before I even,
Well, and I guess
Yeah, I think we need more time to look into it.
My biggest concern are the residents
Sure.
behind the gas station and what's running back there. Oleander's the one-way,
Yes, ma'am.
the
Yes.
one-way street, isn't it? Okay, yeah.
There's lots and lots of people that come the wrong way. There's an issue
Yeah, we're trying to get some arrows on there. You brought that
Yeah.
up. The guys haven't been there yet.
The other thing that I would say about that is kind of like the situation where we had our commercial lots being turned into residential. This is a residential lot trying to become a commercial parking, which is, in a neighborhood. Everybody's trying to build back. So that would be a concern of mine.
They could come in and request a zoning change. It could be another option, but none of that happens like right away. So that,
And if they do this parking lot, they would only be able to enter it and exit from 98, not going to.
Oleander.
Which is a one-way street. Exactly. We're gonna definitely need
And
that.
that's a very narrow street.
So here's what I'm getting at. So you brought up some good points, and that's what you need for me to take down. So your concerns are traffic on Oleander one-way road. So those are the kind of things that I would bring to the attention of the council. So one-way street traffic, and so that's something to consider. You can't cut through this parking lot to get to that one because you can't drive through the restaurant underneath and then make a right into there because you can't go right. You have to get there from coming down from 7th Street.
Exactly.
So-
And that's gonna cause a lot of confusion, in my opinion.
So those are the kind of things that I was wanting, to think about, and of course, you guys would either recommend or deny, not recommend if it was here to vote, but it's not here to vote today. So it's just
So you want
FYI.
those comments now?
Yeah, if you had any comments of things that might concern you right away,
So how would pedestrians get from this overflow lot to the restaurant? Is there a pedestrian walkway or something?
currently there's not a crosswalk, no sir. Not across Oleander, there's not anywhere on Oleander.
I guess I don't.
And my other concern is going from making it residential to commercial. If we,
They're not asking for that yet.
I understand, but there's a very, very good chance that's probably what will come next, I'm just saying. So south of 98, north of 98, right on either side of that, if it was residential, might see making it commercial. But this is technically back, I think, they don't, did they consider you first tier? Okay, so back a little bit, and I just don't.
I'm confused. Is it right off of 98 or is it out on
The restaurant's off
The
98.
restaurant is on 98.
98,
They're wanting to put the
On
parking
the
lot.
beach side or?
No.
The opposite.
here, you'll understand.
Same size as the gas.
Okay, now I thought it was I'm sorry, I thought it was on the 98 on the beach side. I got a map right
Exxon,
here.
empty lot,
Yeah, because this drawing doesn't show it.
yeah.
So I got a map right here, Mr. Harrell, one second.
That'll help.
I know it's not helping the people on the camera, but 8th Street's right
No,
here.
I know now what
All
you're
right.
saying.
So this would be the vacant lot right here, that bigger one, and it would be behind it to the right one, so it's not even directly
So the
behind it.
restaurant is going,
The restaurant's in the red and commercial,
got it.
and in the orange, which is residential general, that's why I brought the requirements residential general, and it's not even contiguous, I guess that's the word, right?
Got it.
Yeah,
So
I
Doug,
think they should, reaching out to him.
listen, the way I look at this, the parking surface, is it not required to be paid for something like this, a commercial lot, or commercial use?
It could be, the gravel lot could be an option, impervious, I think there has to be a certain amount of
I
impervious.
was just looking at surface materials, it says paved parking spaces, so I'm not sure.
Paved
what's
versus
required.
gravel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
what's
so
required.
the next one, yeah,
And
paved.
then the space of the store and the restaurant,
But they own this too,
Mhm.
use it for parking.
are they within the standards of the
That's what I thought.
parking spaces?
I misunderstood.
Exxon, the empty lot.
This is empty.
Can I get that squared away out?
Yeah.
And then it's Terry's lot, and it's right
That's
there.
just something.
It's not directly
Not
behind.
directly behind it either.
There's a little house here, a little gray house, there's the mobile home, and then there's.
I'm looking up the drawing, a copy of the drawing.
Sorry. I just
That's
so
all
I
right,
can
I mean,
see
I'm
it's a
trying
little
to
bit
visualize
to
it.
It's a little bit to the,
So the bottom line is it's in general, it's in orange, which is residential general.
Okay.
So there's requirements required for residential general, and this does not meet those requirements. So if it came to you like this, it would be a no.
Correct.
If it came to you with a variance, you could review the variance, but you guys have identified some issues with foot traffic on the crosswalks, one-way traffic confusion, land use changes in that neighborhood, and another Tim just brought up about paved versus gravel based on what the code requires. So those are all viable options that I can add to the presentation tomorrow when I'm speaking to the council that you guys have made recommendations for to think about should they decide to tell them the question out there.
Sorry.
No, we're going to see if
Chair.
we're.
So we're not voting on this. If you just,
Right.
it's not even it's not a public hearing today. So if you do want to call in somebody for the crowd, that's your discretion.
I was about to ask, this is just kind of open discussion?
Yeah, it was for your guys' information more or less.
For
But
us,
if you want to
okay.
call somebody, you're welcome to. Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else on the board have any questions in regards to this?
I have one more comment or question. So given the parking space numbers based on the square footage requirements and seating, this would meet that with that size extra parking lot?
It would. There's been some recommendations made about the angle parking that they should consider, as opposed to the parallel parking down this side because the people pulling in and out. This is by no means the final design that they're bringing to us, but yes, this number would meet it in the right-hand corner. They have the required number of spaces that they'd have to have if they're 34, and that doesn't count for the handicap spots. And remember, they're not allowed to count any on-street parking for their requirements or toucan parking, or unless they had some other kind of agreement where they did a shared use parking lot, and they're not proposing that this time.
And then, so one last question. So if they lost the lease on this and didn't purchase this property, what would be the impact on their ability to operate?
They could not. They would not be eligible for their license. I don't think you want to answer anything with that too, but we would have to decide that at that time.
You wouldn't have the park.
Yeah.
I do have one more question actually now that I'm looking at this, listening. So this structure, if they were to go up high enough, could they park underneath it?
They could, and I also brought that to their attention that they're missing out on some spots.
Right.
They are going to run into a problem if they do that with stormwater, so they have to think about that, where if that area underneath there was going to be some kind of retention area or drain runoff. So that's something for them to all decide. But yeah, they could have maybe picked up 3 or 4 more spots underneath, but it still was nowhere near enough.
Yeah, 22 is what I'm getting is what they need to, if we weren't looking at this lot, you're saying the parking is going to be 34 is needed.
They would need a garage or something.
Yeah, they would
like that.
definitely need more than that. Okay, all right. Good deal.
But the thought process is we want to make sure we review any options from our builders, and our developers in town to give them a chance.
And the last thing I would be concerned about if this came to us, or not the last thing, one thing would be the residents of the area's comments about this concern.
Yeah, they would have to do that, of course.
But that would be something I'd want to consider.
The residents would definitely have a chance to come in and say whatever they wanted to say.
That's really all I wanted to do there was bring it to attention. Madam Chair, I don't know if you want to take any more questions from anybody else or not, but.
So the public can't speak on this?
It's just open to us to talk. They will open it to the public when it's got more of an approval and may move forward or comes back for a variance.
Are these plans going to be available to the public?
When that time comes, yes, they would be.
They're part of this official record, yes.
Yeah, they're brought up in this meeting, they're public record.
Yes, so when are they going to go online for people to see them?
Tim, you could put it in with the minutes and everything else for there. I've got an extra copy if you'd like a copy, or in a hurry. I got plenty of copies. But we'll make sure we get it available. It is going to the council meeting tomorrow for the same thing, so.
All right. Next thing on the agenda, training material follow-up. That's still you, Doug.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to talk a lot. So at the last meeting, we brought together some items that we had for some training materials, and I had asked for you guys to kind of go through them. I brought additional copies in case somebody didn't have one or didn't keep up with it or something, but there were ideas that we could do for not really training, but something like a guide that kind of showed duties and responsibilities for the P&Z board, We also had a checklist that you guys could go through when you guys were working through an item. And all these items were pulled out of the land development code. So I can pass these around if you want to take another copy. I mean, I know you guys are all volunteers, so if you hadn't had a chance to look at it, you could take some more time. We don't have any items on the agenda that would relate to this item. However, in the future, we will. We are processing our contract for our floodplain manager for those services. So once I get that contract to move forward, those items within the floodplain would go through them for review, and then they make their way to you guys. So there could be some items next month. So if you do have some comments on this packet that you'd like to get back to me, otherwise, we'll make them available every time we put an item together that requires this type of review for development. Just this stage.
If we can get the checklist digitally, please, possibly,
Okay.
so I can just download and use it instead of having to.
Sure, and then we'll have these available also in your packets when they come out. So I'll make sure that we email these to you. I do have it in Word. Email. So if you guys had any comments about these right now, I'll be glad to take those. And then what I'll do is I'll email these 2 packets to the entire council, entire planning board, if that's okay. That way everybody has it electronically. Other than that, that's all I have for those discussions. And if you have anything else for me, go ahead.
Anything else? Anybody like to make a motion for us to adjourn our meeting?
I second.
All in favor of adjourning this meeting?
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for filling in for